What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more acid techno, and we're back with another mix of Wax Is All. Though this one, as I said in the previous reaction, comes from a few years later, at least as it appeared on vinyl. Now, maybe the Sterling Moss remix of Wax Is All came out around the same time as the original 3-track vinyl release, but was only on Flat Life Digital. I'm not aware of that, but in any case, it appeared on vinyl in 2015 on, I don't know, I think a sub-label of Flat Life called Pro Techno. I think this is Pro Techno 1, but I don't know how long this sub-label may have gone or how many releases are on it. At the very least, I only have this one, and indeed, I think it's still shown under the Flat Life label overall on Discogs. In any case, yes, this is a cool release. There's a good track from Steve Mills, and I believe it was like one of the last ones he released before he kind of like left the scene. In any case, we're going to listen to, as I said, the Sterling Moss remix of Wax Is All, and as with many of Sterling's tunes, this has quite thumping percussion. I would refer to the Jack Wax original in terms of the percussion scheme and the feel of like the kick drum and the hat and so on, and the ride cymbal as kind of shuffling. It has sort of a shuffling rhythm, whereas this is a bit more of a, fist against the wall type of pounding track. Though I would also say it's not as fast, it's not as pacey or as heavy as a lot of other Sterling tunes. It's almost like he did his style, but he modeled it a bit after the Jack Wax original. At least that's what it sounds like to me. And again, as someone who's heard a lot of Sterling's tunes, both individually and especially, of course, with Chris Liberator. And indeed, if you didn't know, I think sometime this month, Chris and Sterling are putting out a full album, like a full LP with like 9 tracks on it, which, in the world of techno is kind of rare. It's not unprecedented, but certainly most releases are like 3 and 4 track EPs, kind of, one-off singles with a few remixes, if you will, whereas this is going to be a full album, so I'm looking forward to that. In the meantime, let's listen to Sterling Moss's remix. It actually doesn't say which side. It doesn't list the tracks on the record, I don't think. So hopefully I get it right on a first try. But yes, this is the Sterling Moss remix of Jack Wax's Wax Is All, Gonna Take You Off, which appeared, as I said, at least on vinyl 4 years after the original, on Pro Techno 1, which I believe is a sub-label of Flat Life. Please be the right side. The correct side. Know it's going to come in. very suddenly. Sorry, Steve. But yes, I do recall that ending quite suddenly. And the first time you're mixing it, you might be taken by surprise. Because normally, tracks, they deconstruct a little bit more than that. So, yeah, if you know that's coming, you could be well into mixing out. It is the kind of track that I don't know if I would use that last in a set. In part because it just kind of, it just ends when it still feels like it's, grooving along. Now, maybe if you do a kill switch where it slowly comes to an end, then it would work, and everyone gets what's happening as it's ending. But yes, that issue aside, it's interesting. Like, I would describe this as very workmanlike acid techno. It's in the larger body of Sterling's work specifically. It's almost minimal. Now, that's not minimal techno. It's certainly, it's got this grinding electric acid bass line, and that flourishes and flares at some different points, and then akin to the little mysterious riff that you notice in the back half of Jack's original mix. There's that same element here, though it sounds a bit more like, for lack of a better term, xylophony, if you will. It sounds a bit more bleepy and bloopy. But yes, it's, in the grand scheme of Sterling's tunes, a bit low-key, but in a totally cool, like, vibes way. Again, it's like blue-collar acid techno. It's acid techno with a purpose. It's doing its thing. It's not making a big flash and a big hullabaloo. It's just grinding and chugging along with, a pounding kick drum and very electric and tight, like, acid work. So I really enjoy it. It's interesting, like, as I said, I think it's very similar to the original mix. It has the kind of the same feeling. It's just translated into Sterling's idiom, and I don't know, it's debatable for me which version I like better. I like the original because it was the one, again, it made an impact on me. It, brought Flat Life and Jack's work to my attention, and I think it's very indicative of the style he had in those days. I very much like Sterling's version. I guess it would depend on what else I'm going to use in a set. If I'm going to have a bit more of like a mischievous type of acid techno set, I probably would use the original. If it's going to be a bit more of a wall-shaking set, I might use this one. But yeah, I think they're basically on the same level. So shout out to Sterling, shout out to Jack. As I said, I have only reacted, as far as I know, to the original mix of Acid Rocker, so I'll have to come back and do, the Steve Mills mix and maybe one or two of the other ones, so we'll look forward to that. Let me know what you think of this, and I will see you next time. Peace.